Trevor and I known each other for forever. Well,
About 8 years to be.
is that all?
Because we met, actually it would be even a little less than that because I've been around men's team for 8 years and you didn't come along for another year and a half or two. But it does seem like a long time. Not in a bad sense, but it's like
but I've been on men's team since 1999.
Well, you came, but you were away, remember? And then you came back.
I did take a little time off, yeah.
You went and you became DC. You came back and did the DC thing.
Oh yeah. Oh, was that kind of when we met?
I had never met you before. Oh, I actually I think we met at that panel with you and I and Mr. Kettle, Rob Kettle, at a panel at Patrick Gallard's place, and we did that talk, the three of us, remember? And there were some men in the living room, and
oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I remember that.
that's where we met.
Yeah, sure. But okay, I never thought of myself as being away.
Right.
But yeah, because I think I was still very much in touch with my crew.
Right.
You know, we have for those of you that don't know, Trevor and I've been involved in a men's group for a long time, and part of the thing about that, if I might share just quickly, is that when we were young men, when we were in our teens, and we had our men, we had our boys, we had our little gang, we all had our crew, you know, and that we hung out with, and then life came along, and somehow, you know, we got separated, and many years I didn't have a lot of men friends, or men that I trusted, or men that had my back, or men that would hold me accountable, so this group that Trevor and I've been part of, you know, for me ever since June of '99, and it's been that, you know, and they've helped me, and I'm sure helped you as well to become the man that you are today.
Yeah, and still working on
it. Yeah. I was at the fire on Thursday night, you know, I love standing by the fire, and you know, we built a big one, really big one, like
yeah, Gary Wojciechowski put it on the Marco Polo app. It's on there. I just looked at it 20 minutes ago.
Oh, did he? Well, that's my video.
Okay, the big fire, yeah.
Yeah.
Looked like you almost maybe had some pallets on there or something.
No, it was just we did some deadfall out of the woods.
Okay, yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Oh, it froze up on me.
And so some dead stuff, and you know, we have a little saw that we bring in. Yeah, so it worked pretty good. Yeah, it was a big fire. Anyway, so that's where we met, and Trevor and I have shared accommodations. We rented a house together one time was that for a couple of years, a year and a half, or you know that
it was 7 months actually. It was meant to be however long. No, it wasn't. It was because they sold the house. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Renting, they sold it, so we had to move out. It was 7 months.
Yes. Yeah. Well, good for you. I don't have a great memory for that kind of stuff. But the thing that I was hoping that we would talk about today, I mean, like part of this, what we're doing, you know, and I've been doing these interviews, is to help to lift people up a bit, you know, to let people know that we're all kind of in the same boat, as if you will, with what's going on, you know, and with our new lifestyle, and you know, some of us are staying home a lot, and some of us are grieving even the loss of a lifestyle and change in our lives, and you know, there's lots going on, and how are you weathering all this?
Oh, you know, I'm on an upswing at the moment. It's been, you know, things fluctuate, but overall, to be honest, it hasn't been that great for me. I've been having trouble. I got laid off April 1st. It wasn't an April Fool's joke. And no, it was kind of a relief at first. I wasn't enjoying that job, and for a couple months it was kind of lovely. But as time went on, I started to get a little too much time on my hands, and it's been rough at times. I have been escaping, doing, watching too much Netflix and whatever to fill the time. Could have been filled better, to be honest. But we're not done this yet, and I'm on the upswing these days.
Good.
I'm focusing on making this time worth something, getting value
Good.
from it.
I have used the context of a forced retreat.
Yeah.
Often, because I mean, most of my life I've promised myself retreats or talked about going on retreat, or, and I've done some, but not 9 or 10 months of them. And so it's a bit of a forced retreat. And I've been hanging out with a spiritual teacher who I really enjoyed through his videos. His name is Muji. And I probably watched an hour to 3 hours a day of Muji this last, and it's been amazing. I think I have been a fan of Dr. Hawkins, David Hawkins, and I look at Hawkins' scale, right? The
Yes.
0 to 1,000.
Into enlightenment. Shame to enlightenment. Yeah.
Literally, yes, and to Christ consciousness, at the top of the scale, and so what this year I thought, well, who do I really enjoy? Who's got a lot of material? I mean, I've listened to lots of Ram Dass and Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle and Michael Singer and all of those guys, but Muji's got just a great style, and I feel like he's vibrating on that scale, at least at 650 or 600. I think he's really there now. Not all the time. Nobody's there all the time. And that's the thing. So for me, the whole shift really started with your Enlightenment Intensive in the fall of 2019.
Yeah, something really did shift in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sure resisted that, didn't I?
Yeah, well, not as much as from what I hear the first time you tried it with Paul Lowe, and it crawled out of there, literally physically ill. But you did, yeah. You did a good job, but you did, because you said you crawled out of the first one that you attempted out of physical illness. Your body just rejected. And that did come up a little bit, if you recall. You got a cold and you were sick during that intensive.
Well, I think that I resisted it for years, because you had offered it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I just a lot of my resistance was finished by the time I got there in 2019. But I had been resisting it for years. I'd said no. There's no way. I'm never doing that again. And no effing way. No effing way.
and of course, who is saying that, really, right?
Who's not coming?
The ego, of course, was the one that was in resistance, which isn't the real thing, actually. But yeah,
clearly.
I say, there is no one way, there's no right time. That everybody has to find their own way, I think those would be my dying words. Everyone must find their own way, and
Yeah.
uh, there's no one size fits all. There's no you should do this or that. To all find our way in our own time.
Our way back home. Yeah.
So it is. Yeah.
so so this last year for me anyway, Muji's been I feel like more than just has he been a maintenance program,
Mm.
he's also been a continued awakening, you know to literally often I'll go to sleep at night with him playing in the background,
Mm.
and
Nice.
um it's like having a teacher. You spent time with a beautiful teacher. um
Thich Nhat Hanh.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you
6
know
months. Yeah.
could you imagine 3 hours a day of him?
Yeah.
Well, easy to do. There's lots of YouTube videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
He's
know
there. He's there. I watched one the other day. Yeah.
yeah, easy to do. You could literally have him playing. His vibration would permeate your space,
Yeah.
you know and
Yeah.
we'd have to come in and get you out of there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. For me, just what comes up is my focus in life these days isn't so much that. Like I think that spirituality, all things have a yin and a yang to it, right? And maybe the path you're taking, and the Mujis and the spiritual teachers, sort of strictly speaking, spiritual teachers, maybe is a sort of a yin energy. It's an awareness and an embracing and accepting. But I also think that, and it's an Eastern type of philosophy, right? And I also think that there's another side to spirituality. And you could say one side is just awareness, awakening. The other side is the action, if you will, or the ethics. The way of actually what are we doing? So there's like a being and a doing. And for me lately, and for quite a while now, I've been more focused on teachers that are helping me with that aspect of life to sort of get busy and productive and more,
is that the
because that's just
Dharma path? Is it called?
I don't know. I don't know. That's just my
Okay.
own thing. Yeah. um, so people like Jordan Peterson. Although with the controversy that's out there, whatever. But teachers that are
We love
geared
Jordan.
toward,
We love Jordan Peterson.
yeah, it's just really, often misunderstood or sometimes misunderstood. But these sorts of teachers that are, it makes me think of, Ken Wilber's work, the integral theory. Ken Wilber?
Yes, I've just really tripped on Ken Wilber again. I have his books, and Vishnu from Mind Valley interviewed Ken Wilber the other day, and I listened to the interview. It was like, wow. So he's kind of pulled it all together.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I had missed that. I found him very heady over the years, and
He kind of is, but it's, yeah,
but now I see that there are many paths up the mountain,
yeah,
but they all come up the mountain.
yeah,
And
yeah,
ultimately there's only one top of the mountain, but the paths all lead, you know, and
yeah. And he attempted, and I think did a pretty good job of bringing it all together. So, sure, there's spiritual teachers out there that I would consider, maybe more connected or, to source, perhaps. I don't know. I don't mean that as a judgment, but in terms of understanding, like the philosophy of what's going on, I think Ken Wilber is right at the leading edge of that. So where I was going to go with it is that, he has this one concept in there, the quadrants. There's, clean up, show up, wake up, and grow up. And he says, like, the thing is, he's all about integration theory, and it's, and that's what we, the teachings, I think, everywhere are pretty consistent in saying that it's not about getting rid of your ego, your shadow. It's about integrating it. And so Ken Wilber is onto that. He's the integral theory. So where I was going to bring it back to me is, I facilitate these retreats called Enlightenment Intensives. I've been involved in 18 years. I went to Plum Village and all these other like sort of strictly spiritual, like yin type energies, awakening, awareness. And, and I'm not saying that I'm there all the time, but it's, that's been my focus. But where I really need the work isn't so much in the waking up, it's the growing up, to be honest with myself. I struggle with, just being, productive and like a member of society, like getting myself out there, bringing it. I meditate all day long in my room might be good for me, and sure, it might raise vibration in the overall consciousness. Anybody who raises their own consciousness raises consciousness itself. But again, back to this, it's like there's this mix of East and West, Eastern Western philosophies, and in the sense the West leans on the doing side of things, so that's where my focus has been, because it's where I feel I need it.
A little Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I have resistance to Tony Robbins, but yeah,
I love Tony.
Yeah.
I went to and spent 5 days with him in Florida, did his business mastery, and I bought Tony's cassettes 25 years ago, right?
I remember seeing him on the late night, the what do you call it, the infomercials,
Yeah. I got Tony's cassettes, and so Tony has been, part of my sphere, if you will, for a long time. And he really does help to get shit moving, to get, get things, people kind of motivated. But he's not just a motivational speaker, though. He goes quite deep. He's very spiritual as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, to have the success and the sustainability that he's had, his message has got to have depth.
Yeah.
Agreed. Isn't it great that, you're 20 years younger than I am, but it's great that
not quite, but yeah. How old are you, David?
I'm 65.
Yeah. 15 years.
Yeah. And that, I feel, 45 sure. And I think I'm more excited in a way about life. Than, but as I went through a couple of tough years, which were, instrumental in helping me to get to this place that, I personally believe that having a relationship with the moment, universal intelligent consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, does not exclude getting up in the morning, going to work.
Absolutely. Everything is God, you might say,
Yes.
And I think that word relationship, with all that's going on in the world here, and I do what I do, and I naturally tend to want to figure things out. I have a natural sort of philosopher in me, and I'm interested in that. It really
we haven't noticed.
Yeah. And I really, and I have this fascination with the yin yang, with paradox, and you can see this happening around the world with the polarities, right? With whether it's like a male, female, a black, white, left, right, politically, all these things are coming together in this, what seems, in a sense, conflict or confrontation, at least. But this is the thing I keep bringing back to myself it does bring me hope, so I do it to feel hopeful, but
yes.
Also because it seems true to me that what's going on is not so much like a war, like they're battling it out and then one side will win. It's a coming together of two, sides of something that are actually one. And the hope and the, my prayer and maybe even belief is
Go
it
ahead.
ends up as a transformation. It's like an
Yes.
alchemical reaction. You've got these two elements that are in opposition in a sense to one another, and they come together. And they've been coming together forever, and we're in this time of transformation. It all sort of lines up with the 2012, the end of an age and coming into a new age that it seems that we really are in. And back to that word relationship, it seems to me that like there's something in the triad. There's something to this idea of three, where so I recently discovered through this mystery school that I took here in town with the man named Jeff Dunphy. Retooling the World is his website. A book called The Serpent in the Sky. It's about ancient Egypt from the point of view of the esoteric kind of thing. And in it talked about numbers. And so it talked about one. It goes from 1 to 9. And after 3, it gets really out there and hard to understand. But I got it like really solidly, viscerally up to the 3, what the number 3 means. So starting at 1 is the one, the all, the one, that we can't really name, and 2 is the first manifestation, and I'm really ad-libbing here. It's like the first manifestation of otherness, right? So at some point, 2 became a thing, and it's like probably in the beginning there was the word, like God spoke forth the world, and so it was no longer 1. It is still there. It's not no longer 1. It's not only 1. It's now 2. There's this otherness. There's a manifestation of something real. The universe is created. And at the same time 2 is created, so is 3. So it's a unique little thing that in the moment 2 was created, 3 was also created. And why?
Because the relationship
is the relationship. 3 is the relationship. And I think that's where we're at right now in the world. And that is, I feel, where we ought to put our energy and focus is not, well, is it left or is it right? It's no, okay, let's look at where we meet and what is the relationship. And through that, not only can you come to understanding and create policies and change the world in a way.
Our friend Justin called it the third entity.
That's right. That's right. The third entity, the relationship. It's kind of like I sort of see it as sort of the new spirituality. It's not new at all, but it seems to be where we're evolving. Is every day, like you said, when you get up in the morning, the act of pulling your covers off is you are in relationship with that. The you, the you meaning the real one, that you always have been and always will be, and there's this relationship with the action and the material around you.
Would relationship be connected with awareness and consciousness? I mean, am I in relationship because I'm aware, or am I in a relationship even if I'm not aware?
Interesting. I would say that the relationship is always there. It's a question of whether or not you're aware of it. But if you're not aware of it, then to that individual, it's not there.
So in that number paradigm, do we move into 4 and 5 and 6?
Yeah.
Is that around consciousness and awareness and around? I mean, do those numbers take us deeper?
Yes, well, deeper, depending on how you look at it, because what's deeper than 1?
Yes, I know it's hard to imagine.
But I don't, to be honest, recall all the, like I said, it's really deep and quite abstract, and but I got it solidly up to 3. Just like I really took it in here and got it, and I know that it sort of, as I recall, it moves in a direction of sort of functionality. So as it moves from 1 to 2, 3, up to 9, it moves in a direction of being able to bring the teachings, the ethics to life,
How
to
does
bring it
how
to
does
life.
love play in
Oh,
the
boy.
two?
Well, that's really interesting too. So I don't. This is moving away from that book and the numerology from 1 to 9, but you know that I have discovered this purpose, and I'm not sure it's really resonating with me these days. But it originally was to bring truth, love, and justice to the world. And recently, I guess about a year ago now, I changed it, the wording a bit to bring truth forth with love to create justice. And the love piece is the two, I think, in a way, and it's like, and the justice is the relation, it's the balancing point between the two. So, and I also think of them as, I think of truth as being of masculine essence, and love as being of feminine essence.
Yes.
And I think that, and it's a really, I can see there a lot of opportunity here for triggers to take place. It's, oh yeah, the man's first again, but this isn't about a man and woman.
Because at one level there is no man or woman.
That's right. At the one level there isn't, and that's what we all really are, who we are. I like what, for whatever reason, but yeah, that love is this feminine energy. It's about embracing. It's about just being completely with what is, without resistance, without judgment. And truth is whatever that is. You know what I mean? Like, so you might even, somebody might argue, no. So one of the things I say about this is that truth in the hierarchy of values, like universal, like ultimate value, truth is at the top of that hierarchy, and love would be second. And people say, no, love is at the top. Let's suppose you want to argue, love is at the top of the hierarchy of values. Then I would ask, well, then if that's so, then what is that?
But truth.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Like, this is important here. If it's not truth at the top of hierarchy, but love is at the top of the hierarchy. Let's just suppose that for a moment. Then what is that? It's the truth. It's the truth. The truth is simply what is it not?
Yeah.
So it really is. And I think that's a big part of what's happening in the world today as well, as we're trying to get to the truth, at least some of us. The idea is to let go of agendas, of this is the right side or that is the right side, and rather make the primary agenda the search for truth. Because if we don't know where we are, then we'll never get to where we want to go.
So the truth is not necessarily connected to events or the situation, is it?
Well, that's the paradox again of the ocean and the drop.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
No, I would say it is connected. It's that, like all the drops make up the ocean. So every drop counts, and it's all what is the truth. So it's like I can't. So if I've got this answer for what the truth is, somebody asked me, well, what is the truth? Well, the truth is what is. And then, okay, well, what is? Well, that is a whole other story. Whatever it is, that's the truth. But what is all those things you're talking about there, the facts, let's say.
Yes.
So these pieces that.
Yeah. And of course, they're not where I get caught up in, and we've had this discussion before, is that so much of what we think of as the truth is actually our subjective opinion of based on events. And that's why I like to think of truth as beyond events, not including events, but of course including them, but beyond. And so the truth is not affected by events. You know,
Well, it's I'd say it's affected in the sense that it's dynamic, right? There's this flow. It's changing all the time. That's the
well, if
impermanence.
it's changing all the time, in whose perception?
So
That's where
yeah.
I
Well,
find
no,
difficulty.
I get that, and so how I would respond to that is that, like, you're right. So, like, we have these, let's just say a belief, and we were mistaken to identify that belief to be the truth.
Yes,
What's the truth is that you have this belief. That's the truth. So it's like, it's, to bring it really back to a personal
yes, yeah.
thought.
It's-
We have a thought. Well, the content of the thought itself, it may be true, but not necessarily.
Yes,
What is true without a doubt, is that you had the thought.
yes, or the belief.
Or the belief, or whatever it is. There's sort of a space-time event that took
Yes.
place, and that the fact that the space-time event took place is true.
Yes.
But we, as human beings, the space-time event that occurred was we had a thought or we have a belief, and so that's true that we have that, but that's not necessarily true.
Is it possible? I'm going to go back to Hawkins just for a second.
Yeah.
So Hawkins put on conditional love at 540 on his scale, and Christ consciousness, which would be the truth, I think, at 1000. And is it possible that for most of us in our psyche, we're not actually equipped for the truth at this? We're not vibrating at a place where we can perceive the truth or know the truth or speak of the truth, because
Certainly.
we're if the truth includes love, because it is in the scale of things, beyond love in some way, then I would think that that it would be silly for me from my, from thisness to imagine that I perceive the truth.
100%. It's not that, like, it's possible. It's certainly possible. Obviously, we have these teachers that have shown us, maybe I won't get into whether, is the modern day spiritual teachers resonating at the same vibe as the Buddha.
We've had the occasional Buddha, yes.
Yeah, right. So, and even that, you could say, well, but and that's all just in this realm. There may be another realm where there's a whole another ladder to climb, so to speak. That was an idea brought forth in the mystery school. I was talking about that Christ in the realm of the ascended masters is actually not one of the higher ups.
Well, can I speak to that for a second? Just for a second. Many of the teachings have talked about archangels as being beyond the vibration of Christ. Hawkins talked about.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, Hawkins spoke about it. He had an experience of Gabriel or one of the archangels that was literally not a direct experience, but it was like a brush by, and if you will. And he said it was unbelievable. It was just, it was like the whole universe moved, and so. And that would be beyond his way, like from 1000, it would be more like a 3500. It would be like way out there exponentially.
So he did mention it.
He did. Yeah. The beautiful thing about I've listened to so much Hawkins over the years that he really talked a lot about the other realms, and mostly he said it wasn't for us not to bother too much.
Yeah,
because it was beyond, our comprehension, and beyond, not really where we needed to play. I interviewed a fellow last night, yesterday, a good friend of mine from, since the 90s, and Alan Steinfeld. And Alan's writing a book, or his book's going to be published in May, on extraterrestrials.
I saw a bit of that.
Did you? Yes. And Alan says that they're here now and they're among us, but they're in another, they're like, they're in another dimension, or like in your scale with your teacher, of counting to 9, they might be at 7, and so unable for us to see them. They're just totally out of our perception, unless we spend a lot of time vibrating or meditating, or really moving into this arena. It's kind of beyond us. And he said, well, they're here now, and we're like, he said, we're kind of like a bit, denser, lower vibration. They see us, but they're not that interested in us, because
it's a lot more going on out there. They got a lot of things to handle.
Yeah, they're not that interested in us. And and every once in a while, one of us wakes up and they're like, oh, look, he's awoken.
A bit of a digression here, but it's a nice thought, that in a way. There was this TV program that my mom and my aunt got into way back in the 90s or whatever, and it was, it was people living their lives, but there was these angels in the program that were always overlooking the humans.
Yes.
And it's like this, often, like there's somebody being murdered, and the angels would have a good chuckle at it, sort of thing. It's this interesting concept that the angel, from their point of view, is small potatoes. Not that I obviously don't mean to make, hey, it's okay to kill people. It's not the point. It's that we take ourselves so damn seriously. And that if we understood how small a drop in the ocean, humanity is, but and maybe the word isn't seriously, but personally. Actually, that's better. We take everything personally. It's about, I have to do something, and or don't do that to me. Somebody did something to me. We ought to take it serious, but not personally. So, in other words, flipping back to the angels, and ascended masters is another category you could include sort of in this discussion, is that while they do have this perspective, for those out there watching, all of this, you don't have to believe a damn thing. Like, this is just thought stuff, but it does make sense. From their point of view, it's like not that big of a deal. While at the same time, it's like, yeah, but it is, in the sense that humanity is one drop of the ocean, and right now, according to these teachings, this drop is coming into its own awareness. The humanity is in the process of waking up right now, and they want us to.
Clearly.
They like, they love us, and God loves us and wants us to come home. And there is this sort of longing, and maybe even a grieving if we didn't make it, or when we do things that take us away from waking up and loving each other. So there's a certain aspect of grieving that goes on there too.
So, I do a lot of work in the 12-step world with young, mostly fellas, so I talk about this higher power in this context of a relationship, and not as a separate, but a relationship
with everything. Yeah.
Yes, and a love that we might bring into a relationship. We bring into this awareness, this consciousness of our oneness with this unity, this undescribable isness, thatness, that and that love can lift us to heights where we begin to become consciously aware that, oh my God, no pun intended, this is it. This is, and when we let go of taking it personally, like you just said, and with the self-pity and don't you know who I am, and all of those things, and even the idea that we're not good enough is a selfish, self-centered thought, and humility,
Yeah.
brings us to this door, and we're like, oh my God, here we are. This possibility of being,
Yeah.
not being one we are already one, but becoming aware of our oneness.
That's,
And it's
that's
it
the word realization,
yes,
not
it's like,
not attainment. We're
well,
realizing what was already the case.
yes, it isn't something we got. It's something that we become aware of. We're like, we self-realize. Yes, we're like, oh my God, here we are.
And
Nothing.
it's always been this way. How
Yeah,
could I miss it? So
nothing. Nothing's missing. This is it. And this is what happens in your enlightenment intensive.
yes, it does. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, if
people who,
you're so blessed, yeah. Not for
it,
everybody, but
yes, and a lot of times, we didn't have the language for this. There was no, for many of us, ability to even speak about it, because we, not only have we not had the experience, but we, unless we made a study, we didn't have the language for it. And so I think that what you do when we spend 4 days together, you give people a vocabulary, because language is important if we're going to even express in some way what's happening, or
yeah, in a sense, I think the people, the participants are making up the dictionary. They're writing it as they go. I like to think of it more. It's not so much as I'm giving them a vocabulary, but I'm using language, to be the finger pointing at the moon.
yes,
That's but there's this saying, how is it? It's the way to the truth is the way it is in you, something like that. I'm constantly trying to point people at that which is in them, and right here now. It's like there's always, as long as it seems like I just can't get away from the paradox as long as we're human beings, but we can realize that it is all one. We can have that experience of direct knowing, but as long as we try to think about it or talk about it, we have this dilemma of the paradox. And so while I'm pointing at the absolute, the oneness, that's how I generally open the enlightenment intensives. Is I tell them, it's in a sense it's like the whole, you've been there, you've done it, the whole process of an enlightenment intensive and doing that work, contemplating the question, who am I, and expressing what comes up to your partner, is all about one's own truth in that moment. And that's the way. Like, you can't jump the steps. You have to go through it yourself.
yes,
And it's like, we, in that technique, intend to get a sense of yourself in the moment.
yes. And of course, it's not a belief, then it's an experience. It's not.
Right. You're wanting to have some real experience, and you start where you are as far as you're concerned. So if
Yeah,
all you've got is, well, I'm just this, ass in a chair with a mind wondering, what the hell am I doing here?
yeah,
Then that's what you got. And you
yeah,
start right there. And then the next step is intend to directly experience that. Because as far as you're concerned, the question is, who am I? As far as you're concerned, that's who you are. I'm this ass in a chair with a mind that's confused. And okay, intend to directly experience that. And
yeah,
then what happens is, well, the truth is you're more than that. And then that, if it's not true, it will dissolve. If it's true, what you've intended to directly experience, then it expands. So there's this process, it's the tearing away of the veils, the
Yes.
peeling away of the onion, and you have to start with the outer layer of the onion to get to the inner. You can't. There's no tool that man will ever create that will, I mean, I don't know, but you can't just magically get inside and pull the core out without touching the outside. So it's just the way it is, sort of thing. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
So
Now, that doesn't mean that people don't have white light experiences, like Saul on the road to Damascus, the story of Paul.
Right.
No,
the way it looks is it for each individual can be so different. Like some people, in a certain sense, using a metaphor of the onion, are like, picking away at the skin, and I got the skin off, and okay, now the first layer of the actual onion, and they're peeling it in strips or something. Or another person is, unwrapping it like an orange peel in different ways. But then some people, back to where you were going, like Daynard Willisco, he's done a lot of intensity. He has this way, and you saw he got a laser beam. He just kind of it goes right. He's got to start at the outside layer, but rather than peeling all layers, he just kind of burrows right straight through to the core with his laser beam kind of focus and openness. He's a very open kind of man.
Yeah, beautiful man. Yep.
Yeah. So it's and that's part of the reason I love the retreat and the work is because of watching all these different flavors and varieties of people's process, and it's fascinating, right? Yes. It's like the ego and the personality is there, right? And working with this whole thing. And as time moves on through the weekend, the true self and the ego become less and less distinguishable. They come together, and it's like, well, even you see that in the partners, right? People forget whose turn it is, because it's like, am I you, or are you me, or are we?
we are one together.
Yeah, there's a time when you're just sitting there in contact, and
yeah,
and then that's the truth. There's no whose turn is it.
Yes. So this work, call it work, this, this thing that we're, you've obviously been called and been doing this for, for a long time. And even if you've been in resistance, and I've been called, and even if I've been in resistance, and I think that one of the things that I loved about Hawkins' philosophy was that, the rising ship lifts all ships,
Yeah.
and the rising ocean lifts all ships, or whatever. And so the work that we're all doing is good for the whole planet. And if in the dualistic friction that we've seen recently is just possibly the resistance of some to what is inevitable, I think that we are awakening. I've been so blessed to be here in this time. I was born in the 50s, and the shift that I've seen from, the 60s, which was, dramatically kind of the love generation, but still from the 60s and to where we are now, it's beautiful. I'm working lots with 20 somethings who are so awakened,
Yeah, I think there's lived experience that we can have. It's like evidence. If you need the evidence, some of these 4-year-olds kicking around, like that you can see that people are as we go younger in the years,
yeah,
you can notice the difference between the level of awareness that somebody at our age is compared to a 5 or 10. I mean, I'm not saying everyone, right? But no. There's this odd kid that comes along, literally 5 years old, and it's not this thing of where we say, babies be like the children, and that's what Jesus is talking about. It's not that a child is enlightened It's just that they just come from God and they've got no mind and all that.
Yeah.
So there's this purity and the light in their eyes. But I'm talking about something else. It's like I get, you see this 5-year-old, I remember even, that was back when I was up in a high level. So that's, that's, what was that? That's 20 years ago. And there was this child, this man I worked with, they had this little girl. And she came up to me and spoke with me. And it wasn't like out of the mouths of babes, that sort of, she was fully aware of what she was saying. And she spoke philosophical truth to me that was just burst my heart wide open. I think it's true. We are waking up. We are in a time of transformation. Of course, evolution and the raising of consciousness is happening all the time, but it's this idea that once we come to the end of an age, moving into the beginning of another, that process accelerates, and there's these big shifts taking place. And I do believe we're there now. And it's a great thing to, there's this Jordan Peterson, he says, it's not that I don't say I believe in God. I act as though he is real. And if nothing else, to believe that we are in a time of transformation, as opposed to a time of chaos and destruction, it helps. Like, do what works, if nothing else, and to take on the belief that no, this is a transformative time, not a destructive time, helps us get out of bed in the morning and deal with all this darkness, and I'm wide open. So here I am, enlightenment intensive master, and telling people, let go of all your beliefs and go for the truth itself. And here I am saying, hey, maybe some beliefs are okay to have. They just work if you have them. And so why not?
There's the practical. Maybe we could finish with this. There is the practical, and in my 12-step world, they have Bill, who wrote the book, put 16 different concepts of God. And one of the concepts that I really enjoy is God the employer. The paragraph just before the step 3 prayer, it says that we had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided all our needs as long as we stayed close to him, performed his work well. Now, I really like that. And it's a concept. I understand that it's a concept. It does have a tendency to kind of personify God, but still I enjoy that is a concept that I can work with, on a daily basis. So it's not that I'm super attached to the belief, but I think that they're handy, it's like, okay, I have a new boss, and I got the best boss on the planet, ultimately the only boss. And so it's just a nice concept. And so yeah, I don't think we have to discard everything. If we discard everything, we can't function. We still got to suit up and show up.
That's right.
And well, we don't have to suit up and show up.
Oh, yeah. You could just sit in the cave all day if you want. It's your choice. Yeah.
But somebody will come along and look after us, I suppose. But for the most part, though, I enjoy being out there and being, I have coming up, I have a 2:30 meeting and a 4:30 meeting. I mean, I love my life and it's all this kind of thing, working with guys and, sharing the message. And I feel very blessed to be able to do that, and
thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for, being my friend and hanging in there all these years, doing what you're doing and lifting others up and, risking, this, when you say, okay, we're going to do enlightenment intensive and here's the date, and you have nobody booked and you have you just step out and do it. And enough people show up and that, somehow you're able to pull it off and it's beautiful. So hopefully you keep doing that. Do you want to do one this fall coming up, maybe?
Well, spring, thank you for, got the retreat center booked and I'm pretty sure it's May 13th.
Oh, so you're going to do one. Oh, good.
Well, and everything you just said about, every time I decide I'm going to give an enlightenment intensive and I don't know if people can show. That has been exponentially amplified right now in these times. So, with the COVID and everything is so uncertain. But
Have you put
yes,
a flyer together or an event on Facebook or anything yet?
not quite yet. Typically, I do that 3 months before, and it's coming up. It's
Yeah.
another couple.
Well, send
weeks.
it to me and I'll post the heck out of it and, and share it with people and do you have a website still?
I have a website,
And we'll put the link on this.
theenlightenmentintensive.com.
I'm going to, by tomorrow morning, I'll have this kind of cleaned up on YouTube and I'll put some tags on it and get it ready to go. And I'll send you the link. And if you want to put it anywhere, I'd love to, if you share it would be great. And, we can put your links on it as well and all of that. And
I'll send you my links. So you can put them on
Yes.
yours
Yep.
too. Yeah.
You just never know who's waiting for this.
Oh, it's one of the funnest parts. It's one of the funnest parts to see how people just, very often half the people that I think are going to come don't, and then this other half are like out of nowhere. They fly from the States or they're the last intensive found a piece in an old box in her closet. And that's how she, oh yeah, I remember this from a few years back, and brought her there. It's fascinating how people get there. Yeah.
All right. Well, my friend, I've got to run. What a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Yeah. It's fantastic. And, maybe sometime we can actually be in person and have a coffee here sometime in the not too distant future.
Come to our fire on Thursday night.
Right. Yeah. Thursday night. I'll consider it. We've got my own Wednesday nights. We're still having ours Wednesday night. So for people out there, by the way, we are under the support group exemption.
Yeah.
That's why we meet.
Leafers is we have a great team. Just a great team. It'd be wonderful to have you come by. We're at the same fire pit that you go to, I think. And I won't say.
Oh yeah, Site 9.
I think so. Yeah. Well, when you come across the bridge, we go left. And
I know it's a different one.
Okay.
But I don't think that's no longer part of our confidentiality agreement, is it? We can see where we are. Well, at least anyway. Yeah. I will take that invitation in.
All right. Thank you. Love you lots. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
Wonderful day.